He gave his children everything, but in the end, he had no one. In a busy modern city, there lived an old man named Mr. Daniel. He was once a strong, hard-working father who spent his entire life building a future for his children. He worked day and night, sometimes without proper sleep, just to make sure his son Michael and his daughter Sarah never felt the pain of poverty. For him, their happiness was everything. He never bought expensive things for himself, but he always made sure his children had the best clothes, best education, and best life he could afford. In his eyes, they were his entire world. When Michael and Sarah were young, they used to run into his arms every time he came home from work. They would wait for him at the door, calling him "Dad" with love and excitement. Mr. Daniel would forget all his tiredness the moment he saw their smiles. He would sit with them, help them with homework, tell them stories, and comfort them when they were scared. At that time, he was not just a father, he was their hero, their protector, and their safe place. But as time passed, everything slowly began to change. The children grew up. Michael moved to the city for his job, and Sarah got married and started her own life. At first, Mr. Daniel was happy for them. He believed this was the reward of his hard work, that his children were now successful and independent. But what he did not realize was that independence slowly turned into distance, and distance turned into silence. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Phone calls became shorter, visits became rare, and slowly the house that once echoed with laughter became quiet. Mr. Daniel would sit alone in his small living room, staring at his phone, waiting for it to ring. Every vibration gave him hope, but most of the time, it was nothing important. He would sometimes smile at old photos of his children, remembering the days when they needed him for everything. Every evening, he would sit near the window and watch other families passing by. He would see children laughing with their parents, holding their hands, sharing food, talking happily. And then he would quietly look away, hiding the pain in his eyes. Deep inside, he started feeling something he never felt before: loneliness. Not because he had no family, but because he felt forgotten by the ones he loved the most. One day he called his son Michael. His voice was soft, filled with hope. He said, "Son, I haven't seen you in a long time. Can you come visit me this weekend?" There was a pause on the other side. Michael sounded busy, distracted and tired. He replied, "Dad, I have a lot of work right now. I'll call you later." And before Mr. Daniel could say anything more, the call ended. That later never came. Sarah was no different. When she visited occasionally, she was always busy on her phone. She barely looked at her father. Whenever Mr. Daniel tried to talk about old memories, she would smile politely but quickly change the topic. One day he said, "Do you remember when you used to sleep beside me when you were afraid of the dark?" Sarah replied without looking up, "Dad, that was a long time ago. Things are different now." Those words didn't sound harsh, but they broke something inside him. That night, Mr. Daniel sat alone in his room for hours. The silence felt heavier than ever. He looked around the house he built with his own hands, the house that once represented his dreams. And then he whispered to himself, "I gave them my whole life, but now I am just a memory they visit when they have time." For the first time in his life, he felt like he had become invisible in his own home. Days continued like this, until one winter evening, something inside him changed. He stopped waiting. He stopped expecting calls that never came. Instead, he decided to step outside. He visited a nearby community center where other elderly people gathered. There, he saw people just like him. Parents who had given everything, but now lived in silence. They shared stories, laughed a little, and understood each other's pain without many words. Slowly, Mr. Daniel started healing.
He began talking to others, sharing his life experiences, and guiding younger people who visited the center. For the first time in years, he felt heard and respected again. He realized something very important. Life does not end when children grow up, but it changes completely when parents stop valuing themselves. One evening, sitting with other elderly people, he said something that stayed in everyone's heart. We don't stop loving our children when they grow up. We just learn to love ourselves in silence when they forget us. His eyes were calm, but deep inside there was a story of pain, sacrifice, and acceptance.